So, first of all, good morning to everybody again, and very warm welcome to you all. We're kicking off another session of our CIOB Chartered Membership Programme, obviously in this medium and in the current conditions that we find ourselves. We will be doing the whole thing via webinars, such as you're doing this morning. Usual few technical issues. It's very nice that some of you have your cameras on. There is no requirement for you all to turn your cameras on, but if you have your camera on, great. It can be a little bit disconcerting talking to 30 blank screens. Sometimes you do wonder, is everybody awake? Is everybody listening to you? So appreciate there you turning on the screens. But I also realize that for some of you, even if you've got Wi-Fi issues and bandwidth and stuff like that, if you're not getting a good signal through, sometimes the thing to do is obviously turn off your screen. So it's not essential, folks. You won't deduct any marks for not having your camera on, but if you are inclined to put it on, please do, because it does make me feel like there's somebody actually listening out there. What I would ask you to do, if possible, if you, whilst I'm talking, if you could turn your mute on. But obviously I welcome questions both as we go through, but also I always give an opportunity at the end for a question and answer session. So if you could mute it just in case, well, we had one last week where somebody's two dogs came into the living room and started fighting with each other in the background, and amusing as it was for everybody, it was a little bit hard to concentrate. So if you could just turn your mute on while we're talking. So what are we going to go through this morning? It'll be around about an hour, as most of our sessions will be. We find that is the optimum duration. It's long enough to get the message that we need to get across for you, but it's short enough for you folks not to disrupt a full working day. Prior to March this year, I used to tour around the country, so I did, you know, London, Manchester, Edinburgh, Belfast, Dublin, Cork, and other places in between, depending on who wanted programs. And I would take a full day out of people's diary, and, you know, every 4 or 6 weeks I'd be back for another full day. What we found with the online version, 1 hour is about the perfect time. And it's based on little and often. And also, if you miss a session, it's recorded, and 1 hour is not too difficult to catch up on. You know, pour yourself a cup of coffee in the evening or the weekend, stick the recording on, and absorb it. It's not like you've got hours and hours of stuff to catch up on. So most of the sessions will be around about an hour, and this first one is really just to give you a little bit of an overview about what to expect, about some admin and so on that needs to be done. I know there's a couple of you that have had various circumstances that you've moved from previous courses, so apologies. Some of you may have heard this before. I know there's 1 or 2 of you still maybe waiting for approval or final decisions to go ahead. But again, please come back to me afterwards if you've any questions. So I'm going to tell you very briefly about ourselves, Training LMS, a little bit of background about the CIOB, tell you about the course itself, the project that we work in the background of the course, what your expectations will be about coursework and the end assessment. I'll signpost some useful resources for you. This is not, you'll be glad to know, a textbook intensive course. The days of wading into textbooks hopefully are receding. It's much more about keeping up to date with websites and articles online and so on. So I'll give you a link to some of those. I'll just confirm our provisional dates and times for all the sessions with you. I'll mention briefly about what happens when you finish this course, and I'll also then explain to you what you need to do to be registered. Now, I know a number of you have filled in booking forms and stuff like that, but there is also a new revised 1-page, very simple course registration form. That it's a CIOB form. So after this morning's session, I'll be sending that to everybody and asking you to fill it out. So that's what we're going to go through this morning. Very briefly, a little bit about us and what you can expect. We do have a number of freelance tutors who you will see from time to time, specialists on things like construction law, fire safety, and the environment. But the bulk of the webinars will be taken by myself and a colleague called Paul Andrews. So I come from a construction background. I grew up around a family construction business, did just about every job from, you know, student labouring on sites, contract management, estimating, for a number of years running the company. I then went into consultancy for a number of years, and then back in 2011, myself and another gentleman set up Training LMS. So we specialise in construction management training, particularly for CIOB qualifications. The LMS is for leaders, managers, and supervisors. So we deal with people who are working through or working towards more senior roles within the industry. Paul will introduce himself whenever you have Paul, but Paul's worked for a number of the big contractors. He's an engineer, and he was also head of department at a further education college. So Paul will be predominantly taking you through the construction technology modules. When you finish this program and you're filling in your final application form to be assessed by CIOB for chartership, the good news is CIOB effectively subcontract that to us, and the two gentlemen at the bottom of the screen, Brian McMullen and Jared Graham, they are our CIOB assessors. So effectively, when you finish the course, it's them that will sign off your final application, and you'll see a bit more of them later on in the program. We work right across the UK and Ireland, having room for all the clients up there, but you can see we've got a good selection of main contractors, subcontractors, housing associations would be a big client of ours. But one of the things we've found, particularly over the last number of years, is the profile of person coming on this course has changed a lot. I mean, 10 years ago, this was predominantly contracts managers, site managers. Now it's people from all sectors, all backgrounds, people in building inspection, people working for clients' organizations, people running their own consultancies, QSs, estimators. So you'll find a wide range of people. There are lots of benefits of the way that we are doing things online now. One of the small negatives is that we don't have that face-to-face to introduce everybody. I am looking at ways to do that. I realize that some of you are time limited. You just want to come on here at 10 o'clock, do your hour and get away again. But in our last online classes that we've had during the year, we did get a number of people who, you know, would have a chat before the sessions and after the sessions, and you know, in some cases made some quite good business connections as well. So we'll be looking for ways. You don't have to participate in that, but we do want to keep some benefits going of actually knowing who the other people in the virtual room are. Now, obviously, this is a CIOB accredited qualification. You're working towards Chartered Institute of Building membership. So it's probably useful, without giving you a whole history lesson, it's probably useful that you understand a little bit about the organization that you're going to become a member of if you're not already in some form of membership. The first thing to understand about CIOB is they've been around for a long time. They were originally a contractors organization, although that has changed. They met in a coffee shop in London, and the couple of main things they were discussing in that meeting was contract conditions for a tender and an impending strike. I wonder how many times in their history those two things have been discussed, and I guess what that says to us, you know, we have innovation and we move forward in construction, but we still have some of the same types of problems no matter what era we're working in. People problems, contractual problems, and those are some of the things that we will cover on the course. Also, when you look at their stated purpose, which I've highlighted in bold there, to promote excellence in the construction of building and just and honourable practice in the conduct of business. The language is very dated, obviously, but those are still two pillars on which CIOB stands. It's all about doing the best that you can, not just doing enough to get by, but whatever your role is in construction, pushing yourself to do the best that you possibly can. Also, the language there, just an honourable practice, essentially, don't be a cowboy, okay? So it's about doing the right thing, and we will talk in this course a little bit about ethics and moral decisions that we all have to face in construction. I'm going to fast forward the timeline quite a bit here. 1950, CIOB set up an education department. That would be where the forerunners of this course began, and they accredit and organise a number of different training courses, from you know, basic people setting out just on their first sort of supervisory steps in construction, right up to accrediting degrees all over the world. I mentioned that they started as a group of contractors in the 60s. They changed their name from the Institute of Builders to the Institute of Building, reflecting the fact that not everybody who is a member of CIOB is a builder, but we all work in the building or the construction industry. The 70s, it registered as a charity. Okay, so once you're a full member, you will have some fees to pay every year, just to satisfy you that is not to top up somebody's pension fund or fund nice trips to the Caribbean every summer. It is a charity. They plough the money that they have back into services for the industry and services for members. They're an international organisation and have been for a long time. There's about 50,000 CIOB members worldwide, and over 10,000 of those are outside of the UK and Ireland. So those of you who maybe are working overseas at the minute or might have a thought of working overseas in the future, your CIOB accreditation will stand you in good stead no matter where you are. So you go to work in Australia, you go to work in the Middle East, you go to work in North America, and you're asked what sort of qualifications have you got. Your CIOB membership is recognised in a number of those countries. Another big step forward was in the 1980 when it gained what's called the Royal Charter, which means you can call yourself a chartered construction manager. Okay, so you can't just set up an organization and call yourself chartered. There's lots of professions out there that you might be familiar with who have charterships, so chartered accountants, chartered architects, chartered engineers, and so on. Ultimately, that's what you're aiming for. That's what this course will open the door for you to call yourself a chartered construction manager. Now, when I first joined CIOB in the 1990s, the choice was just to call yourself a chartered builder. And that was okay because in the 1990s I was a builder, but many of you sitting watching this today are not necessarily builders, but you're construction managers. And that was the big change that happened in 2013. They got permission also to enable you to call yourself a chartered construction manager. So when you finish this whole process, you'll be able to put letters after your name, MCIOB, and you can call yourself a chartered construction manager. You can put that on your email signatures, you can put it in your business card, you can put it in your LinkedIn profile, whatever. That is the ultimate prize that you're after at the end of this. So that's just a little bit of background about CIOB. You can find out more about them on their website. I'm going to show you a couple of websites or pages from their website just now. So I stopped the share just for a second, just to bring up the website. CIOB, here we go. I'm going to share for you. So are you all seeing the CIOB website there? Just nod if you're seeing it. Okay, good. Okay, thanks. Right, so I would suggest you take a look at this. You're going to have to register as a student. Now, don't do that until you've filled in the course application form. I will be sending you a course application form later today. Fill that in and get it back to me. Wait a couple of days and then go on to the site. And you can see here, there is a way when you go into membership and it says register. Student membership is like £38 a year, okay? And if you're joining at this time of year, they'll give you it for next year. They'll not charge you anything for this year. And it is to your benefit because when you upgrade to full membership, they give you the rest of the year at the reduced student rate. So I'd be encouraging all of you to sign up as student members, but not until you've submitted the forms to me. Otherwise, they'll not be aware that you're on a course. One of the things I do want to point out on the website, probably most important, is events. And events are even more beneficial now because they're virtual. So you click into events, find local CPD and networking events. You can browse everywhere or you can browse by region. So CIOB is split into Scotland, North England, Midlands, London in the south, Wales, Ireland, and there's overseas ones, but I've just put in everything there. So for example, you can see today, and I'm actually attending this, 1 p.m. today, there's a 1-hour seminar on the building safety update and quality review. Okay, it's free. You click on an email, you register, you put your details in. Some of them are okay, some of them are very good. But if you scroll on down there, you see there's lots of things, from asbestos awareness seminars. There's a webinar specifically for the Middle East about construction in Qatar. So you look down through these, you can see there's 14 pages of events, the majority of which are free once you become a CIOB member. So it used to be you had to look for face-to-face events in your region to go along to, but now obviously with everything being online, at least for the next, the CIOB have mandated that everything's online until the end of March next year. It does open lots of doors for you to look at other events. So I would suggest that that's something you take a look at. Also, they have a YouTube channel. Okay, so just go on to YouTube, type in CIOB, and it will bring you to this. There's lots of videos on there. Not sure if it tells you just how many, but there's a lot of them. And I'll be very honest with you, some of them are absolute rubbish. Some of them are just put up there for the sake of putting videos up on the YouTube. But if you scroll through them, you will find some interesting ones there. And you'll see they're typically 2, 3, 4, 5 minute long. Sometimes, as opposed to bury your head in the textbook, it's just as easy to stick on a video and watch that. Some of them are if you like, some of them are promoting CIOB. Some of them are excerpts from conferences and so on. There was the Construction Manager of the Year last year, which I attended, which is a big gala award ceremony they have every year. But some of them are very technical, very specific. Maybe, you know, you've got an issue about site waste management plans or something, and you want to go and watch a video, 5 minutes, explaining to you what a site waste management plan is. So that's another useful resource that they have, and I'll come back to you with some more websites as we go through this morning. So back to the presentation again. So I've mentioned the YouTube channel, grades of membership. Some of you will already be in membership. Jackie, I see your message there. If you're already in any form of membership, you don't have to reapply, okay? Actually, to be honest with you, you don't have to be in any form of CIOB membership whilst you do the course. Once you finish the course, if you want to have the membership, you must apply. However, for 38 quid for a year, I would say the resources that you get access to and the saving whenever you upgrade your membership to MCIOB, it's worthwhile doing, okay? So don't panic about having to do that today. You know, some people register well into the course, and if you're struggling to do that, that's one of the things you can just drop me a note about, and I can talk you through that. So at the minute, most of you will, if you're not a membership, you'll be joining as a part-time student. And ultimately, what you'll be aiming for initially is to become a full corporate member MCIOB. That's what you could and should be round about this time next year. That's what you should be ultimately aiming for. And many of our candidates, you don't have to, because MCIOB is a great standard to reach. But some people go on to look for fellowship, which is the highest grade of membership. But to do that, you need to show some industry contribution, like, you know, being involved in committees or at a very senior level in an organization. But something that you might want to consider in the future. Other things, I sort of touched on this on the website. They do lots of things. There's lots of member benefits and so on, and events that they organise. By the way, whilst last year I mentioned that was a big black tie event in Park Lane in London, this year it's a couple of weeks' time, and it's all going to be online. Construction Manager of the Year, and anybody can register. So again, that's an event if you want to see what the great and the good in the industry are doing, what sort of projects are winning the big awards. That's something that anybody can log into and take a look at. And I've already highlighted the different events happening. To say there's two that are actually happening today. The building safety one that I mentioned, that's actually run by the CIOB in the north of England, but anybody can attend. And you can see another one there for North and South America. They're talking about COVID-19, not surprisingly, and how that might impact on disputes, which is something we've seen a lot of. For those of you maybe embarking on this earlier in your career, there is an organization called Novus, which is, it's not specifically age orientated, but it's meant to be for people in their first sort of 10 years of their construction career. and we're always looking for volunteers for that. It's something that just to try and encourage the younger people, and sometimes become CIOB membership is something that we tend to consider as we progress a bit in our career. And what we're always trying to do is pull people in their 20s and their 30s to try and make CIOB more attractive, to get the viewpoint from younger people. So if you are in that bracket, or you know people in that bracket, if you're in that bracket, perhaps you could encourage people to volunteer for that. Now, to become chartered, which is what you're all basically aiming for, you need to have the right academic qualification. And the right academic qualification is either a degree or this course. So you can't quite put on your CV that you have a degree, but when you get MCIOB, it is acceptable to say that you have the equivalent of a degree. So for some of you, perhaps if you're applying for other jobs, different promotion, different posts and so on, you know, and you see the requirements, this puts you in the same position as somebody who has a degree. The reason why we can do that is because all of you have some experience under your belt. And what you will find from this course, there will be parts of it where you sort of reassure yourself, yes, I know that, I already do this. And there will be parts of it that will be new to you. Trust me that nobody comes into this course knowing all the elements of it. There will be some areas where you'll find fairly straightforward. There will be some that push you outside your comfort zone a little bit. And what we're basically trying to do, we're trying to give you at least a basic knowledge right across all the areas of construction management. For example, I'm a fellow of CIOB, okay? My strength is more in management, okay? I worked sometime on sites and stuff, but I didn't have a trade. I wouldn't trust myself to put up a picture in the house. I probably wouldn't hang it up straight. I'm not good with my hands, right? But that doesn't mean I could ignore that side of construction. If somebody said to me, Roger, what sort of foundations do you think I should use in this site here? They would expect me to know a little bit about foundations. I mightn't be an expert. I mightn't be a structural or a civil engineer, but I should know what a strip foundation is. I should know what a pad foundation is. I should know what piles are. Okay, so treat it like that. There's parts of the course you don't need to be in-depth knowledge, but you just need to know a little bit about it. So you'll find out about all different areas of construction management during the course. So by June next year, you'll have all finished the course. All of you pretty much have 5 years experience under your belt. And at that stage, then all you have to do at that stage is submit a written application, which is about you and about your career. And that is what you need to get your MCIOB. Now, this course itself, many of you will have been sent leaflets. Some of you have had chats with me. You know what the course entails, but effectively it's split down into 4 main areas. There's a unit on construction technology, there's a unit on management, there's a unit on contracts and commercial practice, and there's a unit on health, safety, and the environment. We're going to kick off this particular one with health, safety, and the environment. Some of you might have done SMSTS or IOSH managing safely or managing safety in construction, or even some of you might have done NEBOSH. Great. That will make the first unit very straightforward for you. But it's not a traditional health and safety course. We concentrate on particular areas within that. So we will have a session. I'll be bringing in an outside expert to talk to you about an hour on asbestos. We focus quite a bit on risk because that's a very popular assignment question that CIOB set. So, you know, risk registers, risk assessments, method statements, and many of you will have either had to do those or at least be aware of what's in them. And that is how straightforward some of the coursework may be. It might actually to be produce a risk register for a project or to produce a RAMS for a certain activity. We'll touch on the CDM regulations, a bit about traffic management, a bit about accidents. And then another colleague of mine, Walter Marks, will come in for a couple of sessions and talk to you about environmental. So that's things like waste and pollution and wildlife and Japanese knotweed and waste transfer notes and all that sort of stuff. Paul will come in and take you for construction technology, and we basically look at the construction process from bottom upwards. So we start with, you know, substructures and excavations, work our way through different types of construction, some sessions on working in existing buildings. There's a services session. There's also a little bit on constructors. Many of you will be familiar with that. Some of your projects might be involved in that. And there's also a session more on the sort of design and planning side of things. The management module, which will be back to me, is quite a varied module. Some of it is pure construction management, like things like defects and innovation and programs. And some of it is more general, what I would call software management skills, like how to manage teams, how to be a good leader, how to manage people. So it's quite a interesting and varied unit. And then the money side of things, the contract and commercial practice. So again, I say we're not trying to turn people into estimators or surveyors or whatever, but we give you a little bit of a dip into that area. So we'll look at construction costs, a bit about commercial risk management, a bit about procurement and the tendering process, a bit about contract administration, contracts generally, and a session from a solicitor we bring in on dispute resolution. Now, all of the course materials will be available on a website. That website is called Moodle. The form that I'll be asking you to fill in later today gains you access to that website. So you fill in the form, send it to me, and in a few days' time, you'll get an email from CIOB giving you access to this site. Your username will be your first initial and your surname, and it will ask you to create a password. It's a different website to the CIOB site. It's only for this course, okay? And just to show you what that looks like, I'll show you an existing one here. So I'll just, again, stop the share a second and show you what one looks like. So again, you should see that in front of me. So I'll click into a course that's running at the minute. You will log in with your username and password, and you will see something that looks a bit like this, except it will say UK June 2021. And there's lots of information on this, including contact details of people in CIOB, the dates of the assessments and so on. There's a candidate's handbook in there. There's also a scenario. Now, I'll talk to you briefly about the scenario. To give the course a little bit of realism, there is a fictional project which we imagine we are looking after. And this year, it's an old dwelling that's been fire damaged that has been converted into a wedding venue. So we have a set of drawings. They're very basic drawings, but you can access them here and you can download them. Also, you have a little visual. So I'll not play it now, but this visualization just takes a few minutes to download. You click on that and it gives you a little 3D fly around the building and through the building, and it shows you. So I'll probably play that on our next session. But if you get onto Moodle before that, have a look at these yourselves. Then you'll see the 4 different topics, and every single one of them will have a resources folder. Okay, so you click into resources. Now bear in mind, this is a course that's nearly finished, and there's the 6 different topics in contract commercial practice, and there's my PowerPoint presentation for each of them, and that the one that says MP4, that's the video. So if you miss a session, you go into this website, you click on it, it should play automatically, and you can watch a 1-hour session of anything that you've missed. Also, bear in mind, this is November, and you'll be handing in coursework in June. There might be stuff at this time of the year that you've forgotten about. By the time we get to next June, you can always flick back into the video and rewatch any session that you want. Also, if there's any supporting documentation there. So for example, in procurement, we talked about site visits when you're doing a tender. So I put up a sample site visit report sheet. So there's sometimes I'll put little things up there, if you like a little library. So we don't fire you lots of notes and so on. You don't get lots of emails with attachments to it. All of the course materials will be available on this website. It's also where you will submit your coursework. But again, I don't want to bamboozle you today. I will have a session which will show you how you submit that. So an early request from me for all of you is, please fill in the registration form that I email over later today. Get it back to me ASAP. The sooner we do that, the sooner you will get access to the course materials. Obviously, I only add the materials as we go, so you will see quite blank at the minute, but as we do each session, I will upload materials. If I'm really organized, I sometimes upload the materials the day before the session in case somebody wants to have them printed off or to have a read through it before you actually start. So when you refer to Moodle, it is simply the website that we store all of the course materials. So if you miss a session, that's where you go find it. Okay, so I mentioned then the scenario. That's a screenshot of the scenario. So effectively over the next 6-7 months, you can imagine that that is the project that you are looking after. And the significance of it is when we ask an assignment question, it'll be about that project. So if Paul sets a technology question, you can see obviously it's got a fire damaged roof. He might ask a question about what type of roof would we put back there. If I ask a health and safety question, I might say, look, that's an old building and there might be asbestos in it. What steps should we take before we start any work in it? So it's just to give a little bit of realism to any of the questions. So for example, you're not going to get a question this year about structural steel or cladding because there isn't going to be any in the project. We'll still cover it in the course, but you know that it's not an area that you're going to get a question in. Now, you've heard me mention the word assessment, assignment a few times. Let me tell you a bit more about that and also put you at ease. CIOB have this habit of calling it an exam, open book exam. It's not an exam, okay? It's coursework. And the coursework comes out twice a year, June or November. So I've got a group just finishing their course who this time next week will be finding out what their questions are. You folks will find it out in June. So that's what we're working towards. That's why the course is starting now, to finish you up in June. And in June, you will have 12 days to submit one piece of coursework on each of the 4 topics. So one health and safety question, one technology question, one management question, one contracts and commercial practice. And you have a choice to pick off. Each topic, they give you 2 options and you pick whichever one you want. And they're about 1,500 to 2,000 words. We will give you practice ones to do. They don't count for anything. There's no penalty if you don't submit them to us, but it is your own best interest when we set you a practice one. If you think 4 of them between now and June, it's about 1 every 6 weeks or so. Give it a stab, give it a try. Most of you have good construction knowledge already, and if you don't, you know where to find it. So your biggest challenge will be, for a lot of you, when was the last time you wrote a report or did a bit of coursework? So we will take you through a session on how to do that. We will give you one-to-one feedback whenever you submit that. And what you will find is, you might find the first one, even this first couple, tricky that you submit, but by the time you come around to June, you should be fairly confident that you're able to put coursework together. So that's what you're aiming for, and we're around in June, and we have a session at the start when the questions come out to help you, so you're not left on your own to do that either. We do have a very high success rate, okay, so 90+% of our candidates get through first time. And those that don't, there's usually a good reason behind it. 100% of our candidates get through second time. If for some reason you fail a topic or a couple of topics, there is a free reset in November. You don't have to reset the whole thing. If there's a topic that you fell below the mark on, you can simply reset it a few months later. Everybody who's done that gets through. So I don't want to lull you into false sense of security that this course is dead easy. But I do want to say that, you know, you should set out with it with the expectation that you will pass. And whatever help you need, some of you will need more than others, and we're there. And if you need more one-to-one sessions with us or whatever, that's what we can offer. Just so that you know, they've already said the dates. So your questions will be released on the 3rd of June, and we will probably have a session with you on the 3rd of June to go through the questions. And there's your 12 days. You've got to the 15th of June to complete them. So listen, I know, particularly in the current climate, nobody has a clue what they're going to be doing next June. But just to let you know, I have had every sort of scenario. I have had somebody who, a guy from Glasgow last year who was driving Route 66 with his wife on a summer holiday when he sat that, and he stopped each night and he did a little bit in the laptop and he passed. Another guy from Dublin who took the wife and family to Florida for Disney World, and again brought the laptop. Wasn't his best holiday ever, he said, but he got it done. Most people are working full-time and get it done around that window. If you have the possibility to get study leave or to book a couple of days off or just keep your diary as free as you can in June, that's going to help. So you have the dates now, put them in your diary and protect those dates just as much as you can. I mentioned on Moodle there's a candidate handbook. It's not that interesting. It's not something you have to read, but if you see it there, you want to have a glance through it. There's more stuff about, you know, if you want to appeal or something like that, if the results aren't what you thought, and how you do that. It's kind of the small print that goes with the course. So it is on the Moodle website if you want to look at that. Just before June, the CIOB will issue more guidance on Moodle about the assignments and what to expect. So I always say to people to set aside a little bit of time for that, but we will take you through all of that as well. There are checks in place to stop people copying, plagiarism. Okay, you can't just copy and paste stuff off the internet. Of course, you can get stuff off the internet for research, but you have to write it in your own words. And there's a piece of software called Turnitin, which we will show you how to use. When you submit your coursework, you put it through this, and it can identify if you've copied and pasted chunks of it from other sources. So we'll show you how all that works as well. And it doesn't all have to be text when you hand stuff in. They encourage you to use sketches and diagrams and photographs. For example, there was a question a couple of years ago about floor construction, and one of the guys in the class was a site manager of a house building site, and he had taken lots of photographs on his site of a particular type of floor construction, and he used those photographs to help answer his question. And I know as somebody who marks assessments, it's always nice to see a little bit of variation and so on. And you don't have to be an architect or have great drawing skills, you know, whatever way that you can do it. But as I say, there's a whole session on assignments and coursework that I'll be taking you through. Ultimately, you're all aiming for a pass. Okay, 50% is the pass mark. So each of the 4 topics is marked out of 30. So that gives for them is 120, and you need to get 60 marks out of 120 to pass. If you get higher than that, you can go into merits and distinctions, which is great. And there are some prizes for the best students from different regions within the UK and Ireland, and that's lovely to get that acknowledgement. But the bottom line is whether you get 50% or 100%, you're eligible to go on to get your MCIOB. One word of warning for you: sometimes people do worst in their strongest topics because they get lulled into the false sense of security. So maybe you leave a question, you're a QS and there's a commercial question. I don't need to research that, that's my job, and you leave it to the last. They want to see evidence that you've done a bit of background reading. Okay, so equally sometimes health and safety, people score less highly in health and safety than they think, and they go, I deal with health and safety all the time. It's because maybe you just haven't put enough effort into it. So just beware of complacency there. They also encourage you to show the fact that you are experienced. Okay, so I've spoken to most of you. I know what most of your background is, and you know, they talk about jobs that you've worked on. Show the examiner that you know you've done the things, that you've got experience in areas. So it's okay to relate to past scenarios that you've been in and so on whenever you're putting your coursework in. Lots of useful websites for you. There are 1 or maybe 2 textbooks that I will show you, but not require you to buy. You can decide yourself whether there's something that you want to get. For the most part, what you'll need will be provided by us or available on the internet. So there are a range of good websites. I've already alluded to the CIOB YouTube one, but just to show you a few of those now. And something that again I would ask maybe all of you to think about doing in the coming days. So a few websites here. Designing Buildings, great website. Wikipedia for construction. It's got news articles on it and so on, but it's really good. Let's say, for example, you get a question on foundations. So go into the search function. Just type in the word foundations. There you go. It'll bring you up an article on foundations, very basic, you know, different types of foundation, strip, pad, raft, piling, and so on. And you can click into more detail. So it's a really good, almost textbook online. Do bear in mind that most of the country knows about it. So, you know, you won't, if you get a question on foundations, do not just copy and paste this, because you will get caught. It will show up on the plagiarism software. But use this as part of your research. You can register on that website. So a lot of these have the function, you just click in, give your name, give your email address, and they'll send you regular updates. That's something I would suggest you do. Construction Manager magazine is the magazine of the CIOB. And again, you'll see when you go onto it in the bottom right, there, all you have to do is stick in your email address and you'll get daily digest updates, which will be basically today's news articles. So today you'd have got an email telling you about there's the Grenfell inquiries continuing, you know, where the parts of the industry, it's sometimes good news, sometimes bad news. What will the post-pandemic office look like? Some interesting articles. I get that every morning. Sometimes I click into an article or two and spend 5 minutes reading it. Sometimes there's nothing there of interest. But if you get the email every morning, that's what I want to encourage you to do. This is not about sitting for hours at night reading textbooks. It's about maybe finding 10 or 15 minutes a day just to keep yourself abreast of what's happening in the industry. Okay, the information's all out there and it's available free for you. Now, if you, once your membership is live, you will get sent the CIOB magazine on a monthly basis. But just to let you know, if you look on the home page under More and drop down to Digital, there is every back catalogue of the CIOB's magazine going back about 6 years. Okay, so there we go. The most recent one, the cover is that, what will a post-pandemic office look like? Again, the magazine, do I read it cover to cover? No, I haven't time. But I'll look in the index and I'll go, anything interesting there that I want to have a look at here? There's the article about post-pandemic office. There's always stuff about BIM. There's always some CPD articles and so on. So I have a look through that and decide what bits I might want to have a read through. And it's amazing how much the examiners are influenced by this. I think the examiners take a lot of their inspiration for questions. What's topical in here? Okay, and that maybe prompts them to think that would be a good exam question to ask. So keep an eye on that magazine. There's others you'll be familiar with. There's Construction Inquirer as well, which tends to have some very similar sort of articles. And again, there's a daily email sign up. You can just click, put your email address in and you get that first thing in the morning. When you come to the health and safety module, obviously the HSE website is a very good one, and I'll take you more into that when we're doing it. Another one I have there is Constructing Excellence. So they have quite good resources. So you see across there, the resources tab, and there's case studies and things like that, which tend to be quite specific, but you'll see I'll use one or two of them as we go through. Also, when you're a CIOB member, you have access to the CIOB library free. So some of it is to download online stuff, but some of it is old-fashioned. You can look for a textbook and ask it to be sent to your house. You have it for 2 weeks and you post it back. So there's quite a lot of stuff that you have access to there, but you will need to be in membership for that and actually go ahead and register. And finally, in terms of resources, there's also the CIOB Academy, which again, once you get your membership, you have access to, and you will see there's 154 CPD, continuing professional development resources. Some of them are very specialist. They're nearly all free. Where you see a charge, you'll also see free to CIOB members. So, you know, some of them are just short reads. There's a short one on asbestos, okay, 42-minute. So it's, if you wanted to refresh your asbestos awareness and you weren't doing it in this course, there's a little CPD. It's free for a member. You just click into it and watch the presentation. So you have lots of resources at your disposal as part of this. And all I'll say is make the best of them. They're there for you. And, you know, familiarize yourself where they are, where to find them, get your logins for everything, and so on. So obviously you'll have a copy of this presentation as well, and you'll have all those links if you haven't been able to take a note of all of these as we go. Now, what we basically have scheduled between now and June is I think it's about 34 one-hour webinars, okay? And we've said provisionally they'll be every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, so you can take that as pretty much, that's a solid date in your diary from now through to June. I realize there might be days that doesn't suit you. As I say, we're sitting at 22 or 23 here today, and there's about 30 registered in the group. So, you know, we never will have a full attendance. If you miss a session, make sure you watch it back if possible before the next session. I usually give you like a couple of minutes grace, but 2 minutes past 10 or so, to be fair to everybody else that's logged on, that's when we'll get going. In addition to the Wednesdays, about once a month, we have an extra session on a Friday, and that'll be at 10 o'clock as well. And that's just because we haven't got 34 weeks between now and June, so we have to squeeze a few extra ones in there. On top of that, when you submit coursework to us, you will get one-to-one feedback from either myself or Paul, okay? If you don't submit coursework, I can't give you any feedback, but if you submit coursework, whether that's a 2-minute chat to say, well done, you're on the right lines, or you need 15, 20 minutes to have a longer chat and ask questions, make use of those, okay? Those are there for you as well. That's to kind of replace when we were face-to-face in the classroom, you could have asked me questions at the end of the class or at the coffee break or whatever. So those are designed to give you all a one-to-one session on each topic with either myself or Paul, and we organize those at dates and times that suit you. So you want to do it on a Thursday evening, you want to do it on a Saturday morning, you want to do it Wednesday lunchtime, it doesn't matter. We'll find dates that suit you. Excuse me. Those are the provisional dates, which I've sent out to most people. It's on the presentation, you'll be able to see it, but if you want a copy of that, please just let me know as well. I'm not saying they're 100% set in stone. We're just like everybody else who knows what's going to happen between now and next June. But those are the dates that I've given my tutors. And unless there's something major happens, those are the dates that it will happen. Okay, so predominantly Wednesdays and one Friday a month take you through to the 3rd of June next year. So you'll sit your assignments in June next year. CIOB will take a couple of months to mark those. You'll get your results in August. Fingers crossed. You get the result that you're looking for. You have one final step, which some of you may know about, and that's the professional review. It's like a lengthy job application. It's not anything to do with anything academic. You have to talk about your career experience to date, and we help you through that process as well. You can start that next August, September, and it's as quick as you can get it in. And that's basically why I'm saying you could be chartered by this time next year. That would be a reasonable expectation for all of you. So you're aiming for something that is a well-respected professional qualification. You're going to be chartered. It's something that could be equivalent to an honours degree. It's about keeping yourself up to date. That's why I emphasize about those websites. Yes, you'll have to put in a few extra hours on top of everything else between now and June. But it's just to reassure you, it's not hours and hours of study. It's more about little and often, and that's to get into that habit. And, you know, for example, it won't work for all of you, but my habit is first thing in the morning, I get those emails 7:30, 8 o'clock. I spend a few minutes reading articles just to try and keep myself up to date. And that's what you need to get into the habit of. The skill of writing assignments is a useful skill. You will be asked to write reports and things in the workplace. So view that as not something that's just, oh, I have to do assignments to pass, but it's something that it might be useful in your professional career. And all of our statistics, all of our past experiences, as long as you watch the videos back either live or on the website, you will get through. Okay, that's the bottom line. And this is what you're aiming for. There's a group of our candidates from last year who went through. You can have the big day out. You don't have to. We're planning some of the graduations for next year for sort of June, July, and there'll be other ones towards the tail end of the year. We're hoping COVID restrictions and so on are gone or relaxed or whatever to enable us to have it. It's a nice day out. And also, you know, when you're putting in the hours, just remember what it's all for. It is a fully professional qualification, and sometimes you bring the family along to graduation, and that's when people realize, gosh, it's kind of a big deal getting your MCIOB. If you don't like the days out, you don't have to have them. You know, you can just get the certificate sent to you in the post, but I would strongly urge you, you're going to have 6 or 9 months now of putting a bit of work in. You might as well get a bit of the recognition at the end of it. So that's what you're all aiming for, folks. This is the form that I'm going to be sending you. It's a very simple one-page form. You put in your personal details there. You'll be taking the exam in June 21, and you leave the bottom third for me. Obviously, that's I sign that and then I scan it and send it on to CIOB. So that's your one big takeaway from this morning's session, that I need you to fill one of these in to get you registered on the course. So folks, that is the information that you need for your induction. We will be starting the course proper on Wednesday the 7th of November at 10 a.m. with the health and safety unit. And I'm going to stop sharing to bring you all back onto my screen and offer the opportunity. I realize there's a lot of you. We certainly haven't time. I think we'd spend an hour if we went round and did introductions. But as I said to you, I do want to bring some form into the course that everybody gets to know each other, at least who you are and who you work for, and so on. But at this stage, folks, have we got any questions that anybody would like to bring forward? And if you have, remember to turn your microphone back on. Okay, so I have either done an absolutely brilliant job or everybody's too shy to ask questions at that stage. I'll take it as the first one for today. So listen, folks, really good to see you all, or most of you. Probably one thing I just didn't mention very briefly, LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, give us a connection. So Roger Gillespie, just look me up on LinkedIn. Training LMS as a company are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really good business tool. So if you're not on it, think about getting on it. If you're on it, come and find me, come and find Paul. Also, there are CIOB groupings. So CIOB in the north of England, the Midlands, the south, wherever you are, they all have groups, and you can hear some more relevant content local to where you're living. So I would suggest you take a look for that as well.
Sorry, Roger. Just before you leave,
yes,
you noted the next session will be Wednesday the 7th. The 7th of November is actually Saturday.
I have. Thank you very much for spotting that. You're absolutely right. I don't know how I've put that in. It's Wednesday the 17th. Would that make more sense?
No, it's Wednesday the 11th.
11th, correct. 11th. Yeah, it is. So I will change that in the presentation. The invites will go out as per the Zoom that you got before. I usually send them out the day before, but don't panic if they only go out that morning. It will always take place on at 10 o'clock.
Excellent.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Sam.
No problem.
Just in time for my next induction group, so I'll not make that mistake twice. Okay,
Thanks a lot.
No problem. Anybody else, any questions? Could I just also say, any of you that haven't, I know there might be a couple of you who haven't officially confirmed, if you drop me an email, if you're definitely going ahead or you're hoping to go ahead. Also, I'm looking at Nigel there. I know Barry's there too, but if any of your colleagues, people, if you had other people that were due on the session and didn't make it this morning, just let them know that I'll be putting this up on YouTube. And when I put it on YouTube, it'll be on later today, hopefully, and I'll send that link around to everybody. In the future, once you're on Moodle, you'll see all the videos in Moodle, but because it takes a few days to get set up on Moodle, I'm going to put it up on YouTube to start with. Okay. All right, folks, thank you very much. And if I'm not talking to you before then, I shall see you all next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.